Did you see it? There, I'm sorry. I apologized sincerely to her. What I'd accidentally seen was running through my mind. She looked as if she were about to cry, and I felt awful about it. But unfortunately, the image in my head was not going to fade away. What I had seen of her had a significant impact on me. My name is Taylor Mason. After graduating from university, I joined the workforce like any other newbie. There was still a lot for me to learn at work, and to top it off, my boss was a hardcore jock. I was often scolded for repeating the same mistakes every day. "Hey, Mason, you've made another data entry error. How many times is this now?" "I'm sorry. I was the worst performing member among my peers. I had always been bad at managing multiple tasks, which led to me making more mistakes when there's a lot to do. I was constantly getting yelled at work, and I couldn't help but sigh, wondering how things came to this. In university, all I had to do was understand the lecture content, so my grades were good. I thought I'd be able to manage in the real world too, but I was wrong. In reality, I was just a bottom-tier employee who kept making mistakes, and I was starting to despise myself. One day, carrying all these feelings, I bought a microwave dinner from a convenience store on my way home from work. I simply didn't have the energy to cook for myself. I usually got home late at night. And since I lived in a small apartment, there was rarely anyone around. As usual, I opened my apartment door, and that's when it happened. Meow. A cat came up to me. The fur was too clean for a stray, and the cat seemed used to people. This apartment allows pets, so it might belong to someone, but where did it come from? As I was wondering about this, the cat sauntered into my apartment through the open door. "Hey, you can't just go in. Fluffy, has Fluffy come back?" Hearing the cat's meow, my neighbor burst out of her door. I turned to look. She was a woman, probably in her early 20s, and she had rushed out in a worn-out sports bra. I was speechless. She had come out in such a hurry that she was barefoot, and she was showing so much skin that I panicked for a moment, thinking she was naked. When she saw that her cat had entered my apartment, she said, "I'm sorry, that's my cat." Oh, here, she realized that she was only in her underwear and turned her face bright red. "I'm sorry, that's my cat. I'll get him out right away." With that, she rushed back into her apartment, returning in about 30 seconds. She was clearly just wearing a hoodie over her sports bra. I didn't want the cat to get hurt inside my apartment, but I was also hesitant to invite a woman into my place at night. So, I said, "I'll try to catch the cat. Just wait here," and attempted to catch the cat. But I couldn't. Was it always hard to catch a cat? Left with no other choice, I had to ask the woman to come inside and catch the cat herself. The cat didn't resist when the woman tried to catch it. It just went with the flow. "I'm sorry for the trouble. I'll make it up to you another day." Saying that, the woman left as it was getting late. Well, she was dressed quite oddly. The next Saturday, the woman came to visit, bringing some sweets with her. I led her into the room to check if the cat hadn't broken anything, and we sat down for a cup of tea. Honestly, since I had led her in my room yesterday, I didn't resist much. Her name is Julia Roberts. She seemed to be a college student, and from the big shoulder bag she brought, it seemed she probably planned to study somewhere after this. She owned a cat named Fluffy. Actually, yesterday Fluffy went out onto the balcony, and I heard him crying at night, so I rushed out in such a strange outfit. Julia was blushing as she explained. "Oh, Fluffy scratched me up pretty bad. It's even more embarrassing to be seen like this. Cats can be quite a handful, huh? I heard cats scratch everything around them when they need to sharpen their claws. So, their clothes got scratched occasionally, but it costed a lot to buy new ones each time. so they wore them when they're not meeting anyone. I'm really sorry for the trouble. Don't worry about it. Just take good care of your cat. Julia thanked me again and got up to leave. But at that moment, her shoulder bag fell over and all the documents inside spilled out. Are you okay? As I scrambled to gather the papers, she exclaimed, No, no. She quickly snatched the papers away from me. But I had seen it. The documents were notices of re-examinations from her university. And there were so many of them. The number of re-examinations was so large, it made me worry about her credit completion. Did you see it? Yes, I'm sorry. I apologized sincerely. At that, Julia blushed deeper than when she had been seen in her underwear, her face on the verge of tears. Everyone says it. They say college is a piece of cake if you attend lectures, but it's impossible for me. I'm not smart. Wah. Overwhelmed with emotion, Julia collapsed right where she stood. It seemed her academic performance was severely to the point where not only graduation, but even progressing to the next grade was in jeopardy. She had always been made fun of for her grades, and it seemed she had developed a complex, or rather, a trauma about it. Well, if you want, I could help you with your studies. No, I mean, I went to the same university. I took the same courses you're having re-examinations for. Really? What a coincidence. Julia was attending the same university I had. So that made her my junior. Julia was quick to take up on my offer. It seemed she had tried asking her friends for help with her studies before, but kept making the same mistakes, and they had given up on her. Well, I did have good grades in university, and depending on the subject, there are tips and tricks. Maybe if I taught her those, she might just make it. So, we decided to have a study session every Saturday. Well, after seeing the sheer amount of re-exams she was facing, I was quite worried and couldn't get it off my mind. I finished work and bought dinner on the way home, so I got home a bit late. So, I had planned to make our break on Saturday, but it turned out that Julia had an imagination that far exceeded my expectations. She was constantly coming up with answers that I had no idea how she arrived at. Honestly, our weekly study sessions were not enough. So, I decided to add additional study sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Julia's house. This was also because Julia suggested, let me cook dinner as a thank you for the study sessions. Teaching someone is also a way of studying for yourself, so I made an effort to explain the problems that Julia seemed to have difficulty with in a way that was easy to understand. Julia seemed to be studying hard in her own way and gradually improved her grades. As for me, I started to take more notice of my surroundings and my minor mistakes decreased. The number of days I could get through without being shouted at increased, and there were fewer hard times at work. And then, 6 months later, I did it. I don't have any resits anymore. Finally, Julia was freed from the hell of resits. Julia was able to understand the lectures after 6 months of study, and she no longer needed my help. It felt a little lonely, but I should be genuinely happy for her growth. Well done, you worked really hard. If you don't understand something, tell me, okay? Yes, thank you. The study meetings ended with that, but the habit of meeting for half a year didn't just disappear. So, I had the chance to eat Julia's dinners occasionally, and I also invited her for meals. We also talked about things like what kind of company to work for and other life advice. A few months passed like this, and Julia was able to move up a grade. I was thinking of giving her a present to celebrate her advancement. Just as I was thinking about this while heading to work, there was something on my desk. It was a document, but not just any document. Personnel change, and I'm the assistant to the president. I was dumbfounded by the document informing me of an unexpected personnel change. Suddenly, my boss patted my shoulder and I jumped. "The president is calling for you. Follow me." With that, my heart was about to jump out of my chest. What did I do? I desperately tried to remember, but I couldn't think of anything. I made my way to the president's office with a stiff body. There were guests in the president's office besides the president. It seemed that I had been called to the president's office because these guests wanted to see me. "Sorry for calling you all of a sudden. These are the owners of Roberts Inc., our business partners." Introduced by the president, I bowed my head. "Wait, Roberts? That's the same surname as Julia. What a coincidence." As I sat on the sofa as directed, the Roberts couple smiled at me. "Nice to meet you. We are from Roberts Inc. No, let's leave the title aside. We came here as parents to thank you and ask you a favor," the president of Roberts said to me. I was completely lost for words and just stared blankly. "Actually, the Julia you've been tutoring is our daughter. We heard that she was able to move up a grade thanks to your help. Thank you so much." No, it was all thanks to Julia's efforts that she was able to move up a grade. So, it turned out that Julia was the president's daughter. I had no idea, I was just surprised. According to Mr. Thompson, the CEO, Julia had her pride and wanted to fend for herself without depending on her parents. It seemed that she started living on her own because of this. "I heard about you from my daughter. I wanted to express my gratitude for everything you've done for her, and I apologize for the inconvenience, but would you please continue to help her with her studies," he said. With these words, both the CEO and his wife bowed deeply in thanks. What? Please lift your heads," I protested. Being shown such respect by the CEO, a man like me, just an ordinary employee, felt quite awkward. After a few insistences, they finally raised their heads. Apparently, Julia had always had bad grades since she was young. She had received tutoring from various people, but it seems the only one who could make a real difference was me. Julia trusted me, and the ridiculous personnel change that made me the CEO's secretary happened so that it would be easier for me to adjust my work schedule. Our CEO was quite capable, so he didn't need an assistant. His permission allowed me to go to Julia's place at any time. In other words, I don't have any right to refuse. But why did the CEO go to such lengths? Was it simply because he valued this business relationship that much? Actually, we've been friends since we were kids. You know, the so-called best buddies. I've known Julia since she was a little girl, and I've been as troubled as anyone else by her academic performance, he revealed. Because I seemed puzzled, the CEO was kind enough to explain our relationship. Apparently, when Julia was in high school, the CEO used to supervise her studies. She managed to pass her college entrance exams, but it seems she ended up in a sort of remedial hell. Of course, my salary remained the same even though my department had changed, so it's a win-win situation for me, or so it should be. However, this lack of a right to refuse showed me the frightening power that adults with authority hold. And so, it was decided that I would be taking care of Julia, approved by both her parents and the company. Julia's academic performance has improved slightly, but I can't let my guard down. She seemed to have received a failing grade in a new course she started right after advancing to the next grade. Your assistance again would be much appreciated. Likewise, I responded. Julia looked a bit embarrassed, but I felt rather glad to have this connection with her. In this way, I supported Julia and was sometimes supported by her, and before I knew it, Julia is now my wife. You never know what life has in store for you. Who would have thought that the college girl I saw in her underwear the first time we met would become my wife? But it seems Julia is still hung up on the mountain of remedial notices, more so than the fact that I saw her in her underwear, playfully telling me to take responsibility for that time as she asks me to help her study. Though the studying she was referring to now was not academic learning, but rather business manners and other basic knowledge for working adults. The CEO was also delighted. Who would have thought that Julia would grow so much? He's an amazing person who single-handedly started the company and continues to grow it. The level of the Harpo performance that even such a CEO struggled with. I still don't know about Julia's past grades, but it seems it's better not to know about it. That's how I'm happily living my life now. But when I really think about it, the catalyst for me discovering Julia's retake notices was when Fluffy wandered into my room. In that sense, I should really be thankful to Fluffy for dropping by my room. Meow. The Cupid of our love spent another day curled up under the sunshine.